But let's go ahead and wrap up this show with a video of Khalil talking to our good friend Jake, the Muslim metaphysician, to point out some of the serious differences. So again, Khalil is an Ismaili Shia, and he's a scholar, and he's talking to Jake, the Muslim metaphysician. And guys, I recommend watching it because, I mean, there's a ton of information there about the disagreements over theology. You have no idea how many differences there are over theology in Islam. But here we're towards the end, and Khalil is going through his... Oh, first he's got the end of the cross-examination. The entire cross-examination where Khalil is cross-examining Jake is awesome because Jake obviously does not want to answer. He knows he's getting cornered on all of these things. But we'll look at two clips. I spliced them together. One is Khalil pointing out the implications of Jake's view, because Jake believes that Allah actually descends, as the hadith declares. And then Khalil, after that, is going to grade Jake on his debate performance. But this is all to illustrate that you have people with one view and you have other people who just think it's silly and ridiculous, all under the umbrella of Islam. So not as united as PBD thinks. But let's check this out a little bit.
Okay, are you able to point me in the direction of Allah's throne?
His mic's off.
He's on mute, so.
Sorry about that. Yes, we can point to it. Alhamdulillah, just as Abdul Qadir al-Jalani stated earlier when he quoted the hadith, which you also mentioned, where the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam approved the belief of the girl when he asked her, where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And she pointed to the heavens.
Okay, can you point where is Allah right now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, can you do it with your finger?
Yeah, we point up.
There we go.
Okay, so Allah is up. Okay. Allah.
You asked about the throne. Yes, it is.
Okay, is the throne below Allah?
No, when did I say that?
You just Allah's above the throne. Is the throne below Allah? No, where did I say that? I think he misheard him or misspoke, because he goes on to agree that the throne is below Allah. So I think he just maybe he was thinking about something and misspoke there. But
the throne is
I'm
not.
asking you.
No, the throne is not. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the throne. This is what I said.
Is the throne below Allah?
Yes.
Okay.
The throne is below Allah.
I just said that. Yeah.
Okay. Is the lowest heaven below the throne?
Is the lowest heaven below the throne? Yes, it is.
You're asking me hard questions.
Yes.
So do you affirm that Allah, per the hadith, descends every night to the lowest heaven?
Yes, I affirm nuzul because it's mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam.
Okay, so then do you affirm that Allah descends from above the throne to below the throne?
He never leaves the throne. But
Okay.
Now, notice, guys, this is already interesting, right? So Allah is above the throne is below Allah, but Allah descends to the lowest heaven, which is below the throne, but he never leaves the throne, right? So this is interesting, but and it's funny because Khalil's just asking him questions, right? I mean, simple, basic questions like, hey, based on this hadith, you believe that Allah descends and so on. And so, here's the heavens and then the throne, and Allah's over the throne. So just break down for me how this works. He's asking like very simple questions. Okay, if Allah's above the throne, is the throne below Allah? Okay, if that's above the heaven, then are the heavens below that? Okay, when Allah descends, goes down to the heavens, so he goes off the... No, he stays on the throne. So wait, he's staying on the throne and yet he's descending. And so...
real quickly, when it's possible, obviously, for somebody not to hear or understand what somebody's asking or saying, but when often when somebody is trying to think up what they want to say, right? They're crafting a way to say this because they don't want to just answer it directly and accurately, right? That's where all the what? Repeat that again comes from.
Yeah.
I've seen this. I like watching court cases, and one of the things I noticed with certain keen judges is they'll say to the person who's saying, what did you say? You understood me, you heard me, you're just trying to stall so you can think of something in your own mind. But that's a tactic that people do all the time. And anyways, it just looks to me like Jake is a little uncomfortable here with this line of questioning.
Yeah. And it's exactly the sort of things that the Dawa guys like to do to Christians, right? Like ask them these these questions about their theology. But notice he's being asked very simple questions here. Okay, if Allah's above, then is he, is that below, and stuff like this. Very simple questions to describe, Allah. What is it? What does it mean for Allah to descend? Parthenon says flying carpet throne. So he's going around on his flying carpet throne, and that's how he's descending. Yeah. And so let's see. And by the way, I just wanted to say, yeah, Jake sounds kind of dopey here, but he sounded very, very intelligent and knowledgeable throughout the discussion. I mean, his opening statement, he really seemed like he knew what he was talking about, and seemed like he was going to school Khalil, or at least put up one heck of a debate. But yeah, it's once you got to once the cross-examination started, and Jake just fell apart with pretty simple questions based on the other things that he'd said. But let's go ahead and see where Khalil goes with this.
That he descends. Yes, it's a real descent of nuzul, which is mentioned in the text.
Well, let me go back there.
Okay, what
Real descent.
Allah descends from above the throne to below the throne?
He never leaves the throne.
Flying
But I
carpet.
believe that he descends. Yes, it's a real descent of nuzul, which is mentioned in the text.
Okay, what's the meaning of a descent here? Because descent means to go from above to below. So what does nuzul mean?
Yes, we understand it in the plain meaning, which is mentioned in the hadith. If I had it in front of me, I can read it, but it's very clear. I think everybody knows what descent means.
This is the problem. This is where Khalil actually corners him on this. Hey, I think we all know what descent means. I don't need to explain what it means to descend from one spot to another spot. I don't need to explain this. But then he can't understand what this leads to. But let's go ahead.
Such a cop out. Everybody knows what it means. I don't have to.
Everyone knows what descend means. Yeah, but what we all think it means creates a problem here. But check it out.
Yeah.
So you affirm that Allah descends from above the throne to the lowest heaven below the throne?
Without entering his creation, yes.
So the heavens are created. The heavens are created. He descends, and we all understand what it means to descend.
The throne is created.
He descends he descends to the lowest heaven, but somehow without entering his creation. He's there. He descended. He moved from here into the lowest heaven. So notice he went through all the heavens to get to the lowest heaven, but somehow he's not in creation, even though he's in the lowest heaven, which is definitely created, but he didn't enter into creation. So watch what happens.
But he does move then from above the throne to below the throne.
Did I mention anything about movement?
Wait, what? Did I say anything about movement? I said he descends in a way that we all understand. We all understand what descend means. He needs to go from here above to down below. He goes from up here, which is up here, and he goes down to the lowest heaven. When did I say he moved at all? This is awesome stuff.
Well, you said everybody knows
about movement.
Okay, what is the meaning of descend that everybody knows?
Look at that. I think we all know what descends mean. Yeah, it means going from one place to another place, aka moving. You said that's what it means. It means what we all mean. But then I said, you're saying he moves, and you say, no, I didn't say he moves. Okay, let's just go.
I just explained it to you.
So
no, you can't explain it again. I'm done.
Unfortunately, that's.
I love Khalil here. All right, explain it to you. Now explain it to me again. I'm done because you didn't explain it.
By the way, I know what the word descend means, but I couldn't help but look it up real quick just because I was curious if it would use the word move. And it literally, the first answer that comes up, the Oxford Dictionary says move or fall downward.
You're right.
We all know what the word means.
Where did I say move?
We all know what descend means.
Really
let him answer the question.
You can have 20 seconds, Jake, if you'd like.
Explain it again. What's the meaning of nuzul that everybody knows?
Yeah, so I explained it, and Ibn Taymiyyah, which you said that I couldn't appeal to, which I don't know why. All I told you was I don't agree with him on every single position, and that's certainly fine. But when it comes to the usul, I agree with him. And the fact of the matter is, he explains this. He talks even about the spirit coming down and the angels and this type of so-called movement, which we cannot really understand. And he compares that to the nuzul or descent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says the difference in that is exponentially greater. Therefore, we cannot understand the kayfiyah. We don't have enough knowledge on it. We stick to the text and what it says, and we don't dwell on the kayfiyah.
This is so
Okay, thank you.
idiotic.
Wait, because this is the ultimate epic burn. And so it's, yes, Allah descends. We don't understand it. We don't understand it. Yes, he somehow goes from this to that, but we can't describe it as movement. We don't understand it. We don't understand it. And watch Khalil's response.
We stick to the text and what it says, and we don't dwell on the kayfiyah.
Okay, thank you. Just like we can't understand the kayfiyah of Trinity. Thank you very much. So I gave 10.
Wasn't that awesome? I mean, he burned him up, right? Like, hey, Jake, you're saying, hey, this is the way it says. We don't understand it. We don't have to understand it. We shouldn't even try to understand it. This is what it says. That's all there is. But then he turns to Christians, and if a Christian were to say, hey, you know, God's a Trinity, but I don't understand it. No, you can't do that. You have to explain it. You have to explain it all to me. He just burned him up right there.
That was a burn. That was a burn.
Yeah. So now we have this grading here. Let me.
Yeah. By the way, just so that people know, when he uses the term kayfiyah, he's referring to the expression bila khayf, which is a way of saying without asking how. And this is supposedly, in terms of the sources, this is supposedly based on texts like 42:11 and 112:4, which I've just talked about, has nothing to do with this kind of metaphysical or philosophical principle. It's simply saying Allah doesn't have a counterpart, right? So he can't have offspring, and he doesn't have, you know, the means to ejaculate and have a child, right? Not because he's not solid, but because he is solid, right? And so that whole thing is developed much later than Muhammad, and I don't think it's consistent with what Muhammad was saying. He didn't say that you can't say how, right? But that's their typical out for this sort of thing.
Now, with that said, I mean, there's something to be said for that position, as far as if God explains to you something about his nature and what he does, and you say, okay, that's way beyond me. I don't get it, and so on. That should be pretty common in theology. You should try to understand as much as you can, but understand that you're not going to understand everything. But they won't let any other group besides them do this.
But it's also this too, that we usually say something like, it's one thing for us to not know how two things go together or something like that. It's another thing to say we're embracing contradictions in the name of our ignorance or something like that, right? Now, if somebody could prove genuine contradictions, that's a problem for us as Christians. We can't just say bila khayf or something like that, right? Well, that's what they want to do, though. They want to say Allah descends, but he doesn't go lower, he doesn't move, right? They want to say these terms are being used literally, and then when you press them on that, then it's not literal. And by the way, Muslims, not just Salafi Muslims, but even your typical garden variety Ashari, like think of Hamza Yusuf, right? Very famous Muslim. He has a book called The Creed of Imam al-Tahawi. So he's passing on and explaining a creed of a particular Muslim. In that book, he says that true theology, Islamic theology, involves squaring a circle. Right, that's how he describes it. So you're bringing together two things that are fundamentally contradictory. When we want to present something as contradictory, how do we illustrate it, except by talking about it as a squared circle? Right, that's the fun. That's like the classic example of a contradiction. And here's Hamza Yusuf saying that's Islamic theology. We try and reconcile the idea that something is both a square and a circle. But when Christians say that we don't understand the Trinity, let's say, we're not claiming that there's anything irrational here. We think that it is rational.
Yeah, we're saying you can't get your mind around it. Like I can't get my mind around quantum mechanics or relativity or something like that.
Yeah. Now, somebody may want to argue, no, it really is contradictory. That's different, though. You know, you're not really, you know, at that point, you've got to prove that. But that's not what we're embracing. This is what Muslims are embracing. They are embracing fundamental absurdity.
Yeah. And so, yes, Allah descends, but doesn't move. Allah's speech is neither Allah nor other than Allah, all these kinds of things. And when you say, hey, it seems like you're contradicting yourself, it's, we accept this without asking how. But let's go ahead and see this report card here. So this is Khalil's conclusion. He burned him up multiple times in the cross-examination and then in his conclusion. But then, since he's a professor, he actually grades Jake.
Arguments. And you're calling it a machine gun approach because you are utterly unprepared for what I had to show you today. You have not actually gone through the primary sources of your own creed or my creed and actually seen the different type of discourse that's there. This is the problem. I'm actually astonished why Jake, who frankly is a very, very smart guy, okay? Like, I have to hand it to you. You are very good at philosophy. You're a very clear thinker. I enjoy, watching some of your other videos. I really do. You're very smart. And it's just beyond me why you picked the Athari creed, because it has like the least defensible positions. So frankly, I've offered these 10 arguments against the Athari creed. And you didn't really respond. So I'm going to grade you. Okay. I'm a professor and I grade people. Okay. So let's grade your response. So philosophical Kalami arguments are forbidden for Atharis. This is a historical fact. You appeal to Ibn Taymiyyah. I'll give you a D- on that, okay? Because for this debate, you said you follow the creed of Ibn Qudama, and Ibn Qudama, as well as the followers of Ibn Qudama today, they say philosophy, logic, this is not allowed in the madhab. So you had to go outside the Athari creed. So I'll give you a D-. Number 2, anthropomorphism of Ahmed ibn Hanbal. You had nothing to say about that. So I take it you concede the point. You get an F. The problem of tafweed, you had nothing to say about tafweed. In fact, you changed your view. You said you commit to tafweed via Facebook message, but today you said you commit to the apparent meaning, which is worse than tafweed. So you get an F, okay? And same for all the other tafweed. Now, you did appeal to mystery, so you fall into argument 5. You said, we don't know how God descends. It's incomprehensible, but we believe it. Well, congratulations. You've appealed to mystery. And you are no different from the Trinitarian Christians that you like to debate. So for any Trinitarian Christian watching this, remember what Jake has said today. He says, God is above his throne and he descends in some incomprehensible way. And we don't know how. Okay. So now every Christian can say God is 3 persons, 1 essence, and we don't know how. The actual positive arguments I gave, you had like nothing to say about these arguments. So I'm giving you Fs on most of them. You did try to answer number 8. I'll give you a D- for trying. I like giving participation marks as well. But really, everything was an F.
He says, but really, everything was an F. So he gave him a couple of D. He gave him a couple of D-. He gave him a couple of D-, but he said, but really, everything is an F. So yeah, matter of fact, I'll go ahead and after we're done, I'll add that as a link in the description box for people who want to check that out. But yeah, again, even though by the end, he was crushing Jake, Jake did do a lot of research, a lot of studying, was bringing up points that sounded like he was making good points and so on, but it all came crumbling to the ground by the end. And so, yeah, that was pretty much a massacre by the end. All right. Well, I think we are